Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Welcome back to this post-Thanksgiving Friday, Black Friday special, I guess. Alec Lasley with me for a little bit as we start off the show. How you doing, sir? Happy Thanksgiving.
Good. How are you doing? Yeah.
Great.
Happy Thanksgiving,
happy Thanksgiving to John and to everyone else that's out there. Hope you guys have a great day, a great Black Friday. If you're out shopping, that won't be me. I can tell you that. Any shopping done by me today will be done online. I'm going nowhere. But plenty going on this weekend as the state finals football championships are happening. You've got the Old Oak and Bucket game. Indiana plays basketball tomorrow night. Tom Brady is here on Sunday. The Lakers and LeBron was just here. Alec, a lot going on, man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on this weekend. There's a lot IU going on, from even their soccer game as well in the NCAA tournament to obviously what you just touched on, basketball and football. And I think there's a couple other events going on in Bloomington too. So it's Bloomington is definitely popping. Even though the students aren't there, just with a lot of different IU athletics sporting events going on this weekend. So it should be a fun weekend to kind of wrap up that Thanksgiving holiday for a bunch of IU fans and IU grads and people on campus.
And for a Pacers fan, the NBA says that Chris Duarte was fouled on his game-tying three the other night. Of course, that always comes out after the fact. They could have given them the lead in a game in which they would go on to lose in overtime. So there's that. If that makes you feel any better, which it usually doesn't.
Yeah,
the Colts.
It's funny just on that for a second that those when those refs come out and say, you know, I think it's the final 2 minutes, those calls. That's absolutely. I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever, because what are people going to do after the fact? It's just going to annoy people even more. And annoy the players even more, and you may as well just say you made a mistake.
They're like, I already knew that.
Yeah. It just gets people more wound up than it needs to be. So yeah, just sorry, didn't mean to jump in there, but yeah, I think that's
it's just funny. Yeah, you're right. It always does. It drives you nuts. We're like, we already knew that. We tried to tell you all that at the time, but yeah, tough one. But now they've got another one coming in on Sunday as Tom Brady brings the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in, and the Colts, man, they're still thriving to get to the playoffs. So they've got a shot, and Tampa Bay has shown they're vulnerable. So we'll see what happens there. Speaking of football, the high school football state championships are going on at Lucas Oil Stadium over the next couple of days. So you've got that going on. Black Friday is happening today. Like I said, we know everyone out shopping. And then the Old Oak and Bucket game tomorrow, as Indiana travels to West Lafayette to take on Purdue in a game that the only thing that can salvage Indiana's season, Alec, is to get a win in West Lafayette, and that is a long odds right there. And to do that, though, I think that Grant Grimmel has to start this game. I've been saying it for a while, but he's the only quarterback that they have that has thrown the ability to throw the ball right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the frustrating part, because everyone wants to continue to see Donovan McCulley continue to develop, but whether it's just that connection between him and the wideouts, or him and Nick Sheridan, or him and the offensive line, it just seems to be a little disjointed between him and kind of the rest of that offense, which is unfortunate, just because if you're going to burn that red shirt like they did, you want to continue to get him the most reps, and that's just the unfortunate part about where IU is at this point of the season, where they can't even use a red shirt the right way at this point, or not even use it. So yeah, Grant Grimmel seems like the guy that they're going to go with. Unfortunately, like we just said, that it's a walk-on who's going to be starting in this game. most likely, and seeing the majority of the snaps. So he has at least shown the ability to move the ball. Now, granted, a lot of the times when he has done that, it's been in absolute blowouts of a game. And who knows kind of how interested and in tune that opposing defense is at the time. So we'll see what he can do from start to finish. I don't think many IU fans are going into this game expecting a whole lot. But, maybe he can pull something out of a hat and at least show some sort of fight from this team and this offense that really has not done anything, obviously, all year. But definitely not anything over the past few weeks.
Speaking of football, like we talked about, Indiana heads up to West Lafayette tomorrow, but some other Big Ten news. Mel Tucker at Michigan State has signed a 10-year, $95 million contract. That's basically $9.5 million a year. What in the hell is going through the minds of these people? I have to wonder, after a single season of success in which you built on the portal, he is now, I haven't read the article yet, but I don't know where that puts him, but that puts him in the top 5, I think, without question, as far as top paid football coaches in college football.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I know a lot of people were talking about the deal that he was going to get. I don't think anyone kind of thought it was going to be that large. I know people definitely were saying that Michigan State was going to toss a lot of money at him, obviously with some of the other job openings that have started to kind of open up over the last few weeks and month or so, and his name being tied to almost every single one of them, at least to a certain extent, and him being asked multiple questions about it to a certain extent in almost every single press conference. And much like, the James Franklin situation at Penn State as well, who got a massive contract extension, obviously much different situation just due to the success that he's had for multiple seasons. But yeah, after one season here with Michigan State, really being successful and really finding it kind of weird that right when they did that, they ended up getting absolutely blown out of the water by Ohio State and looked much like a team that did not even deserve to be on the same field as them. So it kind of makes you ask, really, how good is Michigan State, and if this season is much more of a fluke than anything else, just due to the fact that, like you said, they built it a lot on the transfer portal. We'll see how he continues to do that, but also just the fact that they really have at times not looked that good this season. And you can easily point to Indiana as a team that should have beaten them earlier in the season. So we'll see how it turns out, but it's head scratching, and that money that people are getting nowadays is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is Tom Allen 2.0 almost, kind of what he did. Maybe not quite as to that extent, but yeah, a season built completely on the transfer portal, which is fine if you can do that. But there just seems to be no middle ground. You go from 0 to 100 because someone, maybe they're interested in him. This is how schools get in such trouble, and this is how the people look at him like they do. I mean, when the money that is spent, when problems come about, was like they'll say, well, this is what you do. You care more about throwing money at the top than you do about fixing problems. So it's just an odd thing to see a program that has not been, ever really been that successful. They've been successful, but this is not a team that is fought for Big Ten East titles over the last couple of years. They haven't really been a fixture on the college football playoff scene. So, and I know that they want to get there, but man, it just seems like you don't have to. I want a job like Archie Miller or Mel Tucker's had, is all I'm saying, is where you don't have to do much and you get paid out the yin-yang, because college athletics has gone, as crazy as it sounds to say, it's gone crazier than it had been already. I remember 10 years ago, we were saying, what's wrong with these people? Hell, now the things they're doing now make that look like Candyland.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're probably going to be saying the same thing and making the same jump in the next 5 years, in 10 years. So it's a never ending kind of pattern that college athletics is going through. And it's just going to continue to see that and continue to go that way, even more so. We've seen it with name, image, and likeness, and we're going to continue to see it with different forms of boosters and everything like that. So I don't think it's going away anytime soon, and I think it's just going to continue to get more and more crazy with how much money some of these coaches get. Whether you think that it's deserved or not, they're still going to get tons of money for 1 or 2 really good seasons and kind of rest their career on that.
So we've talked about the Hoosiers are heading up to West Lafayette on tomorrow. And in the the predictions that the staff puts out, if there was ever, I'll be honest with you, if there was a shot that Indiana, I'm probably going to go with Indiana and picking those predictions. But here of late, it's just been, the truth. And the truth is, it's hard to find a belief that Indiana can win these games only because they don't have any. They've shown zero on offense. I mean, they've shown nothing that they can actually produce. The defense, you never know. They can come back to life at any time. But when you don't have an offense that gives you a shot, and I haven't seen, like I said, other than with Grant Grimmel in here of late, I haven't seen an offense that gives them a shot. And so unless that changes, well, I don't understand what in the world anyone could hold out hope for an upset here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I really, like you said, I don't see a true kind of way or script game plan that Indiana really has that can beat Purdue at this point. It's unfortunate, just because usually most of these games, even if Purdue isn't having a great season or IU isn't having a great season, you go into that game thinking it's a coin flip. And I don't think you go into this matchup this year thinking it's a coin flip. I think almost everyone is going to be looking at Purdue, and if they lose that game, looking at it as a massive upset. And that's just not what I think Indiana fans obviously expected coming into this season. And it's unfortunate that a lot of it kind of rests on Grant Grimmel's shoulders at this point, like we said, but he's been the only one that's really kind of showed any sort of ability to kind of move the ball. So we'll see if he does that, like I said, for the course of the entire game. I just don't think Nick Sheridan's shown any kind of ability to actually call a game from start to finish. He's had a couple possessions here and there and a couple drives here and there where it looks really, really good. And he's started to bring some sort of creativity to the offense. And then if they don't move the ball in the next possession, he seems to go away from it. So he seems to have a really quick trigger with his play calls. And it just goes back to really not having any confidence in the offense. And I don't think the confidence has any confidence in the play calling to really move the ball at all. So like we said, we're kind of running in circles here because neither of us think it's really going to be much fun to watch this game this weekend. But we'll see if Indiana can, pull anything out to kind of end this season on a high note. That's obviously not been a fun one for anyone involved.
We've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some basketball with Alec Lasley of the Hoosier.com, Indiana Rivals, of course. And they have an annual subscription sale going on right now for Black Friday. Just put in the code 2021, and it is just 2021 for the first year of an entire subscription. That's what, $168 a month? Are you kidding me? That's a bargain. Hey, we got plenty more coming up. Indiana Sports Beat Radio back with more on this post-Thanksgiving Friday, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration, I just sent that to you, Alec.
Yep, just saw it. So we'll get that up.
How long does that up last for? Live at midnight. How long does it last?
December 12th or December 3rd.
Well, that ain't very long.
So a week. Yeah, a week. Next Friday.
Well, let's blow this stuff out. Need to put that up on the the thing, the eye too, John. We're not going to have much of a live audience today because no one knows.
I know. Well, yeah. I was like, people may not know we're on because on Wednesday you accidentally said we weren't going to have a show.
Well, it's not that so much as they're not in their regular
in general.
They're not in their regular schedule.
Yeah, a lot of people are off work today, hence why Alec is here right now, or why he's here for an extended period.
Is that the parents' home right there?
This is my girlfriend's parents, or fiance's parents now, I guess.
Well, that's what I meant. I knew yours, not yours. Yours lives in New Jersey or wherever.
Yeah, my parents are up in Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. So they're Pacer fans. What's that other jersey there?
It's right next to it. It's a Jermaine.
You should spin that sideways and put yourself right in the middle.
Well, usually I do, but yesterday we readjusted the table and everything, so it's to fit more people. So it's kind of messed up down in the basement right now.
I love this Leroy's Jewelers commercials. I just hope I don't have to listen to them. Here comes another. Yeah. I'm sending it to you right now.
That's fine. Yeah, just forward them to me and I'll update them next week.
Leroy's Jewelers.
Or it's Leroy's Tavern and Brinker's Jewelers.
That's right. You're right. Look at you go.
Hey, I deal with that. I update them like every month. I know all the names for most of them. We've got First Federal Bank. There's another one too. I can't think of off the top of my head. But
we need to be having them down there.
We should be for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this post-Thanksgiving Black Friday. Jim Coyle, as always, and Alec Lasley joining us from thehoosier.com. Indiana Rivals, as Indiana preparing to host We Are Marshall tomorrow night. Let's see, they are currently 5-0, Alec?
The thing with Marshall is they can't really shoot the ball. So I think it's going to be a lot of the same offensive struggles for opponents now that seem to really, really struggle to score the ball against Indiana. I don't see that changing with Marshall this weekend. They shoot about 29% from three as a team, only about 44% from the field overall. So they don't struggle to score the ball, but they just struggle to have really efficient offensive possessions. And I think with obviously going up against Indiana's defensive pressure, it's going to be more of the same. Aren't super big in the front court. They do have one guy who's averaging about 6 blocks a game. He actually had 10 blocks against Jackson State last week for Marshall. But you look at them from top to bottom, and I think you're just going to see kind of more of the same result that these teams have been getting over the past few weeks. And I think Indiana fans and I think Indiana especially is ready to kind of move forward to the next kind of level of opponents and play, get to Syracuse and actually face a high major Power 5 program to really see kind of where this team is at. Obviously, this team looks like it's in a very, very good spot. Obviously, defensively, offensively, we'll see how they continue to progress. But we're not really going to learn anything else from this Marshall game that we don't already know about Indiana. So I think a lot of fans are just hoping, let's get through the Marshall game without any injuries and move forward to Syracuse and start kind of getting the season kind of officially underway now. Just due to the fact that. I think you're going to see another 70-30, 80-50 kind of game that we've been used to seeing over the past 2-3 games for Indiana now.
Yeah, Marshall has played some common opponents, of course, because of the Hoosier Classic or whichever one this is. In Louisiana Lafayette, they won 93-79. Jackson State, they defeated 80-66. So they're getting out and running, putting some points on the board and holding these opponents. That Louisiana Lafayette got 80 points, so that was a little bit closer, but very similar in the Jackson State game. So they're the best of the opponents Indiana has played in this, it looks like, without question.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just again, the fact that they're not super efficient offensively, I think, is really going to hurt them against Indiana. They're not a great shooting team, and the fact that they don't have any kind of true big guys back to the basket that can really put up a lot of points. They have one player, but he's a lot more of a defensive-minded, kind of longer, athletic player. So I think you're going to see a lot of Trace Jackson Davis involved a lot more early in the game. And if Marshall's in foul trouble, they're going to really struggle to put up points. But, maybe they get hot. Most of their guards shoot about 15 to 25% from three. They take a decent amount of threes. So the fact that they're not converting on a lot of these just shows me that they're not going to show up against IU in a longer, more physical type of backcourt that Indiana has. So it's going to be a struggle for them to put up points consistently. They'll probably go through a stretch throughout that game, just like every team has done against Indiana so far. Put up 7-0, 9-0 run, I'm sure, at some point. But I just don't see this one being really close whatsoever. I think Indiana is ready to, like I said, move on to the next set of their opponents, and they're ready to kind of cruise through this one as well. So I think Indiana is going to be ready to play and ready to, win this one big like they have been.
Yeah, Marshall is not exactly, although they're 4-1, they have not been shooting the ball very, very well. As you said, not very efficient from 3-point. Tavion Kinsey, probably maybe their best shooter, but he's only connected on 16% of the 12 3-pointers he's put up, 2 of 12 over the last 5 games. But he's made 80% of his free throw shots. But Marshall they're putting up a bunch of 3-pointers. They've attempted 29. They've only connected on 17%. And only 5 of 29 over the past 5 games. And that's playing against teams that are not as defensively stingy as Indiana, as you pointed out. So this could be even worse for We Are Marshall.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Indiana is going to go to Trace Jackson Davis early, try to get one of their 2, solid defensive big guys in foul trouble. And then after that, that'll kind of open up the floor for Indiana. We heard Mike Woodson talk about post-game earlier this week about him wanting to get Trace Jackson Davis more touches. He only had 7 shot attempts. Obviously didn't need more, but I think you always want to start with Trace Jackson Davis and then work your way out. And so I think you're going to see a lot of a kind of a heavy dose of him early on in the game, and then let some of these other shooters try to continue to find their rhythm like Parker Stewart has. And obviously Miller Kopp is starting to kind of come along. Still isn't shooting at a high percentage yet, but I think he'll get there. And the aggressiveness, I think, is the bigger kind of change in mindset from the past few years with Indiana. Just because he's not shooting the ball great right now, hasn't really shown in his confidence. He's still up there with, shooting the most almost out of anyone outside of Trace Jackson Davis. So they're going to keep shooting. They're going to go in. But yeah, Indiana's confidence, at least from most of these guys who are true shooters, is not going to really waver, which I think is really important moving into the next set of games here for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis, the offense is going to have to run, depending on the matchup, but most of the time we'll need to run through Trace Jackson Davis. The only positive thing that has come out of these last couple of games, Alec, is that Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart, Christian Lander have kind of found a groove while they weren't doing that. I've talked about this with Parker Stewart. I think just stepping up out from behind the 3-point line, opening up, hitting some different shots. He's even tried to get to the rim now, so his game is opening up. Miller Kopp, obviously putting up more shots now, trying to feel a little more confident as being a part of the offense. And then we've seen Christian Lander come in, and not the last game, but the game before last, get minutes. But coach said that the second unit wasn't getting the job done when he put him in the last game, so he just took him back out. And that's what we'll see throughout the season. And that's refreshing to hear, because at least you know what you're going to get. This should be a game that I don't know what's the spread on this game. Not the name, but just out of curiosity. Do you happen to know it as I'm pulling it up slowly?
I don't know it. I would assume it's going to be right around 20, like it has been for most of these games for the Hoosiers so far.
All these games have been like 23, 24 points, and Indiana has covered it with the exception of early. What was the game early where they were up
Eastern
big
Michigan?
Yeah. Other than that, where the guy lost 110 grand on that bet. Poor dude. But I'm trying to find that right now, just out of curiosity. If anybody has that, throw it up. But just, I think this may be the biggest point spread yet that Indiana's had. If I can get that pulled up as quickly as possible. But let's see.
I don't see a spread yet where I normally see spreads.
It may not be up until later.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Indiana's not listed on the Big Ten games. Oh, it's because it's tomorrow.
Yeah. It'll probably be out later today.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have one yet. They don't have one there either. None of those games have them. So there's that. But let's see. For tonight, there are a couple of Big Ten teams in action. Michigan State taking on Baylor, a 6-0 Baylor team. Alec, in the battle for Atlantis, Baylor's a 5.5-point favorite in that game. Sparty is 5-1.
Yeah, Michigan State's had a good little run here. They had a really nice second half run to beat Loyola in the opener, the Atlantis tournament, and then they obviously had a good win against a ranked UConn team yesterday. So, two really, really solid wins. I think they're still trying to kind of figure out just what they normally do early on with these Tom Izzo teams, kind of who's going to be their go-to player. Max Christie came into this season as a freshman who a lot of people thought could be that guy. He's a freshman, so he's going to have those up and down moments. I think that you're going to look at a guy like maybe Gabe Brown as someone who's going to start to step up as a guy who they can kind of go to a little bit more consistently. But yeah, they've had guys step up in both games so far that I don't think a lot of people think are going to consistently be there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Michigan State does against this Baylor pressure defensively and against these really good Baylor guards once again. They just seem to kind of, Scott Drew just seems to rotate new guys into that system every single year, whether they're transfers, whether they're freshmen, whether they're sophomores who barely played as a freshman. So he's going to do the same thing again. I think Baylor's going to have an easier time with Michigan State than I think maybe some people think. But it should be a good game, and you can never really bet too much against Tom Izzo. So it'll be a fun one. But I think Baylor does just have a little bit too much firepower and a little bit too much scoring options to kind of play with Michigan State there.
I agree with you. And let's see, Purdue, the Boilers, probably the top team in the Big Ten right now, Alec. At 5-0, they're taking on an Omaha Mavericks team that no one has ever heard of. They're a 36.5-point favorite. I guess that's just a regular home game. So Purdue looking really, really, really strong right now.
Yeah, Purdue looks really good. They seem to have all the pieces from really deep and talented front court to a pretty deep and talented backcourt as well. I think Jaden Ivey's taken a big step up that a lot of people thought he was going to take, and he's done pretty well in that role so far. And you just have a lot of really good complementary pieces around him and Travion Williams and Zach Edey as well. Caleb Furst has had a really good start to his career, and I think he's someone that is going to continue to get better and better. Just his ability to not only pass from the perimeter into a Zach Edey or a Travion Williams, but to stretch the floor for Purdue. And that really opens things up. And that's obviously why you don't see Travion Williams and Zach Edey playing in there at the same time. But I think Caleb Furst is definitely going to be the X factor for this team moving forward. Just his ability to kind of play that versatile four and really kind of be able to stretch that floor. Like I said, it is the one thing that he brings to that offense. Mason Gillis was kind of that guy last year, but he's not going to see as many minutes moving into this year just because of that impact that Furst has had. So I think Purdue's whether you like it or not, Purdue's a lot of fun to watch right now, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch throughout the season, and a team that has a really good shot at winning it all at the end of the year here.
Let's see. Illinois is 3-2, taking on a 4-2 Rio Grande Valley team. At 8 o'clock tonight. They're a 26.5-point favorite. They've struggled a little bit, but they did not have Kofi Coburn at the beginning, but they have also not as strong as they were last year. Iowa also, well, I'll go ahead. Illinois, just not as strong as they were last year, like I just said.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Curbelo just is really not taking care of the ball like he needs to do as a starting point guard. Coming in last year, he was that guy kind of coming off the bench, being someone who could really just be that Energizer bunny, which he played that role perfectly. And you could deal with those turnovers because you had Ayo Dosunmu. Now, obviously, you don't have Dosunmu, and you're relying a lot more on Curbelo to be that main ball handler and that guy who not only can score, but really kind of make those plays for the offense. And he's just not doing that at a consistently high level. And if you're not getting really good point guard play, not only in the Big Ten, but across the country in college basketball, you're just not going to be a very good team. And I think the other thing is Trent Frazier is just, he is what he is at this point. He came back for an extra year using that COVID year, but just has really not shot the ball at a consistent level so far. And if he's not going to shoot the ball at a consistent level so far, you're not going to have a lot from that Illinois backcourt. And that's the biggest question mark moving forward for Illinois is if Trent Frazier can play at a consistent level, it'll be a lot better. And if Curbelo can really cut down on those turnovers, but have not really done either up to this point, and that's why they're struggling.
Curbelo and Dosunmu, a fine wine. Sounds like a winery. The Iowa Hawkeyes are also 5-0. They host Portland State. It's 2-2. Iowa's 24.5-point favorite there. So a couple of teams in the Big Ten starting out very well. Michigan State 5-1, Purdue's 5-0, Illinois 3-2, a little struggle. Iowa 5-0, Indiana currently 5-0. I expect them to be 6-0 as they head to Syracuse next Tuesday. We won't get to talk to you probably before then, but probably Indiana's first true test. But how much of a test that's going to be, other than a road game, we don't really know because Syracuse hasn't looked that dominant or that great thus far, Alec.
Yeah, they really haven't, and I don't know if they're going to be able to fix it before Indiana comes in. They just they don't get a lot from their front court, and that's a big thing if they want to contend with Indiana. I think Indiana's shooting ability is really going to be able to kind of get them out of some holes offensively in that 2-3 zone. There's just maybe typically not your longer, more athletic guards that Syracuse has had in the past. They tend to just be a little bit shorter, stockier. Obviously, you have Buddy Boeheim who has great length, but Joe Girard is just not what you would typically have from that Syracuse point guard position. So I think they're gonna struggle with the size of Indiana's perimeter players and their ability to elevate and kind of shoot over them. But I think the key in that game is going to be Miller Kopp and his ability to knock down the three. We haven't seen it, like we talked about earlier, do it at a high level quite yet, but he's going to continue to shoot the ball. Parker Stewart's now shooting 47% from three on the season. He's made 7 out of his last 10 threes. So he's way out of his slump. So if you have both of those guys on the outside, it's going to be difficult for Syracuse to keep in that 2-3 zone. And you've seen from time to time Jim Boeheim move out of that 2-3 zone. And I think if Indiana does shoot the ball well in that first half, you may see some of that coming out of the gate there for the Orange.
What quickly before we get you out of here? Yeah, big game tonight, Duke and Gonzaga, because Purdue hovering there, never been ranked number 1 in the AP poll ever, and they need Duke to knock off Gonzaga for that to happen. And of course, Indiana fans are hoping that does not happen.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga is gonna handle Duke very similarly to what they did to UCLA the other day. I think Gonzaga is just way too good of a team. I think a lot of people were kind of doubting their guard play coming into the season, but I think Andrew Nembhard really stepped up and is now proven to be that really good all around true point guard that they need for that team. And if they get some really good minutes off of their bench from their freshman guards too, they're just really tough to beat. And it's another Mark Few team that we talked about it with Scott Drew. They just seem to rotate in new guards every single year from the transfer portal, and guys who pick up that offense and that defense immediately and end up doing really good things with that Gonzaga roster. So I think Gonzaga is going to pull this one out. Just not super high on Duke as some people may. I think their backcourt still has some question marks around it. So we'll see what they can do with that guard pressure of Gonzaga. But yeah, I like Gonzaga in this one.
Well, we'll certainly find out. Alec, thanks a lot. Indiana taking on Marshall on Saturday night and taking on Purdue in the Old Oak and Bucket game in football earlier in the afternoon. So we'll be talking to you soon, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Alec Lasley from Indiana Rivals, thehoosier.com. We've got more coming up. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Black Friday post-Thanksgiving right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
The baseball season is
Morning, Zach.
Hey, sorry, it wasn't letting me turn my camera on because I had my camera function open on my computer.
No, you're good.
Happy Thanksgiving, man.
You too.
How was little man? That's his second Thanksgiving, right?
No, it's his fourth.
Oh my God.
He'll be 4 in March. So
holy crap.
That sounds right. Yeah. Because he wasn't 1 yet when he had one. Thanks for moving it around. We're gonna
anytime.
We're taking him to a Christmas tree farm this morning.
Oh, speaking of which, Jim, since you're technically
he'll be graduating, he'll be on his way to college here next year.
I know.
Mine is a freshman at Ole Miss, and yesterday was her 4th Thanksgiving. What's that, John?
Jim, since you're ending the live portion of the show at 9:30, just make sure that you mention to the radio listeners that there's highlights from this week coming up for the rest of the show before you wrap up.
Right.
Zach, what was your tweet yesterday talking about bird jurisdiction? I was trying to decipher the
it's from an episode of West Wing where the press secretary is supposed to pick a turkey for the president to pardon, but then realizes that the one she doesn't pick is going to get eaten. And so she tells the president he has to pardon both of them. And he just has, he says, aren't I going to get a reputation for being soft on turkeys? And
that's what.
And then she's like, come on, I just need you to go, CJ, I have really no judicial jurisdiction over bird.
That's one show that I did not watch when it was on, but there were a couple others that I've gone back. I just finished The Wire for the second time.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't watch that when it was on, because I love that stuff. And Dexter, I had to watch that way after it was off the air. I don't know why, but yeah, I just finished The Wire for a second time.
All right, here we go.
Good one. AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Yogi's Bar and Grill. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Black Friday, post-Thanksgiving. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Great. Good to see that you're not standing and sleeping in line on some sidewalk somewhere waiting for a TV or whatever else it is we may need.
Yeah, it's funny. I always tell people like Black Friday in Bloomington's great because you get all the deals at Target or wherever that everybody else gets, but there's 30,000 people here. So I mean, yeah, I've done the Black Friday before. I don't think I have any reason to do it this year, but anytime I've never waited in a line. I've never had to line up outside a store. None of it.
Yeah, I've done it one time, and I'm like, yeah, I don't see me doing that again. But hey, whatever it takes. But it's fun time. It means the holidays are here at least. There's that good part. And with that brings lots of sports, and this weekend especially, lots going on. No matter who you follow, you got a basketball Saturday night. You've got the Odoken bucket game Saturday afternoon, but it's rivalry week, so there's a lot of great games going on this weekend. But for Indiana football, this is their only chance to kind of salvage what has been just a forgettable season. If somehow they could possibly pull out an upset win, but the problem is usually when you hope for an upset, you can kind of see where there might be a path, and it's just hard to find a path for this football game to succeed offensively, I guess you'd say.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, that's just kind of where Indiana is offensively, and I think that you know, it. What's funny is in the past, you know, I've covered Indiana teams that were, you know, I guess record-wise just as bad as this one, that felt more competitive, even if they didn't come a lot closer, you know, physically to getting wins because they could score points. And, you know, I think this is, generally speaking, I believe that a program like Indiana needs sort of the head coach that it has. I think you need, like, you're not going to be able to outscore teams with more talent than you. You've got to be able to compete on defense. But I think that, you know, I think when I hear from IU fans, one thing that I sort of understand their point is, you know, basically saying, well, geez, we've seen bad teams before that could still at least score 30 points in a Big Ten game. This one is just so stuck offensively and is so, I mean, just so, I mean, they can't find anything that they have confidence in enough to move the ball, enough to, you know, I mean, the way I said it last weekend is that there's no starting point. There's, you know, you got an all Big Ten tight end, you got an all Big Ten wide receiver. It's far from a perfect offensive line, but you do have an experienced offensive line, and yet it doesn't feel like Indiana has any cornerstone. You know, there's no place for this offense to start, and that is, I mean, you know, that's an indictment of a lot of people. You know, players, coaches first. Coaches will always tell you it's an indictment of them first. And it's something that obviously Indiana needs to work through once the season is over. But between now and then, of course, they have to play Purdue. And like you, it's just hard for me, especially against a Purdue team that can move the ball and score points pretty well, and always has been able to under Jeff Brom, even in seasons when they've struggled. I just don't see how Indiana's going to have the firepower here.
And not only that, there have been times where it looked as though their effort, it was hard for them to give the effort needed. And I don't see personally any way that they don't start Grant Gremble. He's of the quarterbacks between him and McCullough, obviously throwing the ball, he's the only one between the two that has had some success here of late. So I think you have to do whatever it is you can try, even though as crazy as it sounds to be starting a fourth guy who's a walk-on, but that's where they are.
No, I mean, and I think it comes down to just whether or not you feel McCulley has confidence in his ability to throw the football. And it was pretty clear he didn't last weekend. He has at times, you know, to be very clear, he has at times. But I just don't think if you don't have that confidence that he has that confidence, and forgive me, that's a weird way to say it. That's my 3-year-old behind me. Also, my camera went out. I'm not really sure what happened there. I'm sorry about that. This computer doesn't love me as much as I love it. But then I think there's a case for starting Gremble, or at least going into, and I normally loathe, you know, 2 QB plans, so to speak. I don't think they work. I don't think they're a good idea, broadly speaking. But in this instance, you know, every once in a while they're called for, and I could see a world where Indiana kind of needs that rotation this weekend. So, and I'm going to mute this when I'm not talking so that you can't hear the chaos outside the door.
Oh, that's all right. This is a day for chaos. So we'll see how that turns out up in West Lafayette. Also in Indiana taking on Marshall tomorrow night in a game that should be rather easy as they have kind of gone through their opponents here lately like a hot knife through butter, with more importantly the defense first, then the offense that has come along. The defense has been stifling and it has been consistent, which is something great for Hoosier fans see, but Mike Woodson has to be very pleased with his defensive effort on a consistent basis by this team.
And I think he's got to be pleased too by, that there was a lot of, from Mike Woodson, we heard a lot of sort of like, we'd say, where's your team with this? Where's your team with that? Going back to, I'm thinking about the summer. And you were on those calls, same as I was. There was a lot of like, well, I think we're here, but we'll see. I think we can do this and this, but we'll see. I think he'll be pleased that his assessment or his faith, maybe, his belief in where his team was defensively was not misplaced. Essentially, I think he will be particularly pleased with that. And I think you're right. I think that there's, and this is where you get into kind of intangibles and coach speak and stuff, but I think he'll also be pleased that, sort of his players have been adopting what he's preached, which is, defense is our identity. Defense is where we are, where we play with greatest intensity and greatest effort. And then that translates everywhere else. And we knew this was going to be an imperfect offensive team. And I don't think there's a future, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a future where we are, 2 months down the line and Indiana's got one of the top 15 offenses in the country. I just don't think that this team is going to be capable of that this year. And that's okay. But I think there is a path that we can see, even relative to the competition Indiana has played. There is a path, there is a possibility, maybe that's a better way to say it, that this team can be one of the top 15 to 20 defensive teams in the country. And that would, by default, make it one of the top 5 or 6 defensive teams in the Big Ten. And if that's the case, then Indiana is going to have a shot, just about every night in conference play. Indiana is going to win a lot of home games. And Indiana is going to pull off the occasional upset. And again, I think from Mike Woodson's perspective, as much as anything else, I think he is going to feel like, this is what I wanted my players to embrace, this sort of identity. This is what I thought they were embracing when I was sort of analyzing everything in the preseason and in the off season and the Bahamas trip, et cetera. I think what he will be pleased by is seeing that come to fruition now and seeing that sort of when the lights are on and the games count, finding out that he was right and that his belief in his team was justified.
Yeah. And not only that, he put it, they're not offensively. I think they're going to be pretty good, but the focus has been on defense and to let the offense come. And I think that it has. It is not only has it come. We saw the players early on. Trace Jackson playing very well. Race playing very well. We're waiting for Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart to come out. They of late have kind of come out and found a rhythm. Even people like Christian Lander have found rhythm. So the offense seems to be coming along as the season progresses. Only 5 games in. They have a test as they travel to Syracuse Tuesday night, of course, Marshall Saturday night, but then travel to Syracuse for their first true test, I guess, of the season as they travel a true road game against a Syracuse team that hasn't had started out greatly, but they play that matchup zone, which, you hear about, and it'll be a different look for Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we're kind of at a point, and I think it's, it's justified when I think you're justified in that's some little hands sneaking into the office. Forgive me.
Love them. It's what it's for. Is the holidays, man. That's all part of it.
I think that you're justified if you believe Indiana is better offensively? I think they clearly are. I think that, it's important to see players like Christian Lander or Tamar Bates, obviously a Rob Finney. I think it's clear, Mike Woodson's talked about being 9, even 10 guys deep. I think it's clear that this team, this Indiana team is going to be at its best if it does have a deeper rotation, at least for the moment. Some teams, sometimes coaches can be guilty of almost kind of trying to be too deep and then, sort of watering down minutes and things like that. But I think this Indiana team is going to be better when it's deeper. That said, I am kind of at a point where I'm reserving much further judgment on this offense until we can see Indiana shoot away from home, play more Power 5 competition. If Indiana goes to Syracuse and knocks down 12 threes, then you start to say, okay, some things have really changed here. If Indiana goes to Wisconsin and wins, and I mean, I'm just kind of number one, I get that it's been a really long time for Indiana fans. Number two, that Wisconsin team just won the Maui Invitational, so let's take them seriously. But if Indiana could pull off something like that, then I think you look at it and you say, okay, it's not just against the cupcakes at home. This is something more sustainable. But I think that for the moment, I think basically what I'm saying is I think Indiana has kind of topped out what it can do to prove itself or to prove that it has turned some things around in these games, these guarantee games at home. The next step is, can you do it against Big Ten competition? Can you do it on the road? Can you do it night after night? And that's just something that's something Indiana can't prove until, they get the opportunity to. You can't fault them for not having done it yet. They just haven't played any of those games.
Absolutely. As those games continue to come, we'll watch those. John's going to kill me because I should have asked this a minute ago when we were talking about football. After, let's say this Purdue game comes, win or lose, especially if they lose, how quickly or the changes in Indiana on football and the staff, do you think those come quickly, if they come at all, which I can't imagine some changes not happening? But Indiana is generally a place where things don't happen as fast. That's why you haven't seen anything happen before the end of the season. And Tom Allen said that was not going to be the case. But you've got a timeline for recruits that has been moved up to December 15th. And so that is a date that is not that far off. We've seen Bonham and Pearson already hit the transfer portal. I think there's Jacoby Hewitt, a few names, but right before the season ends. So how long do they wait if there's a change coming?
My suspicion is it would happen fairly quickly if it was going to happen. And it is tricky, with the early signing period. I think sometimes we have seen basically programs ask coaches to stay on through the signing window to try and keep recruiting classes together. The flip side is it's never been easier for kids to transfer than it is now. So I think maybe, you sort of this almost kind of this idea of hoodwinking a recruit. Let's say a recruit is attached to a specific coach that you plan on not retaining them, not renewing their contract. And so you say, well, can you just stay on through here and we'll pay you some, we'll guarantee the rest of your contract or something like that. And just to help us keep this recruiting class together. Well, maybe you think less about hoodwinking recruits that way because that they'll just transfer out in, a semester if they don't like it, if they find out that, they didn't want to be there from the beginning or they only wanted to be there because of that coach or whatever. I don't know. My suspicion is it will happen fairly quickly because I think a program like Indiana, every college program right now, frankly, needs clarity. There's so much that's unclear about the extra COVID year and recruiting the portal versus recruiting high school kids and, just kind of, just being able to move forward in a way that isn't subject to all the different sort of vagaries of what's going on around college football right now. For me, I think if you are going to make a change, you need to make it, and this is not just Indiana. I think this is just me speaking generally about college football programs. If you feel like a change is necessary and you've gotten to a point where it's not even the end of the season yet, you haven't even begun sort of your wider review of your season, your program, where things are and the state of things, and you feel like there needs to be a change, then you just need to make it. You just need to you need to make that move and be as decisive as you can be. That may mean, from Tom Allen's perspective, that may mean he has to move a little bit faster on certain things. You know, in the past, we have seen him try to wait until the coaches' convention to fill certain spots. Maybe not coordinator spots as often, but sometimes he has. You know, sometimes those spots have been filled after the convention or around the convention. That's not until January. I suspect that if you make any kind of change in your staff because of the early signing period, you're not going to be able to afford to wait until then. You're not going to be able to afford to leave a spot open on your staff that long, especially in December, which is such an important time for recruiting. So maybe I'm sitting here and I'm kind of talking myself out of it. I'm saying maybe you need to wait until after that early signing window just because you need a full staff. But one way or another, I think you at least need some decisiveness in sort of saying this is the plan moving forward, and you know, these are the pieces I have in place for it.
Well, we'll certainly find out, man, as that is coming to Zach. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I know it's a holiday weekend. Like me, you're going to be working. You got football and basketball going on tomorrow. We've got the state finals that are happening this weekend. So lots happening. But have a good and enjoy the time with the little one as much as you can this weekend.
Absolutely. I'll do it. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir. You bet. Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. Make sure you should be a subscriber. I am. And do that. We've got lots more coming up. In case you missed some, we'll do some recaps of highlights of some things that happened this week for those of you listen to us on radio. And I hope you guys down in Evansville and wherever you are have a great holiday weekend. This is Jim Coyle. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.